guys, we're at work and it's the job that I was doing at the beginning, end last week. What's the day today? It's Friday. It's Friday and we're back at this job, which is just round the corner from my house. So there's literally, it's like a 60-second drive. So yeah, nice sunny Friday morning, and it's kind of like a time for celebration because we've just hit 3,000 subscribers. I went to bed last night. We've got a new video up. What's it called? The new video that I'm referring to is All the Best Plasterers Do This. It went up about 5 o'clock Thursday evening, and I had 2,999 subscribers, and then when I woke up this morning I had 3,005. So yeah, celebration, and thanks to all you guys that have given me all the lovely comments and supporting and subscribing this channel. And you know, it makes a couple of quid. I think my estimated revenue for this month, well, it will be it's like £160, and that's banging out 2 or 3 sort of like round about half-hour videos a week. So you know, it does take quite a bit of work. Getting better at it, obviously. With experience, you know what sort of footage you want to get, because I'm doing it all myself, obviously. The camera is my phone, it's in my pocket. I'm gonna get that bit, get this bit, have a little chat. That's the easy bit. And then just obviously getting it back and editing is the one that takes the time, because you have to watch through it. But you don't just watch through it once. Obviously you're trying to trim little clips down and think, well, we'll get some music and we'll put that on there. And then, like, my mate was playing the radio and stuff, so then you watch it back again. So, you know, a half-hour video will take a couple of hours to do, because you've watched it 2 or 3 times, you know, through the process of going backwards and forwards, have a little break. I don't want to, go back to it. Yeah, I mean, considering, you know, the amount of money you make, it is a bit of a labour of love, if you like, making the videos. I quite enjoy making the videos. I'm not complaining at all. It keeps me out the pub and stuff like that. Not that I would be in the pub anyway. I'm sure I'll find something else to do. But yeah, you're getting paid less than minimum wage, really. Unless you get up there, and, you know, start making some serious views, you know. Yeah, I can't see myself supporting myself just via YouTube videos, but no, it is what it is, and I'm still enjoying it, and I'm enjoying that you guys are enjoying it as well. So it's all good, it's all a nice happy Friday, and everything is just perfect in the world. So guys, without me rambling on too much, let's end this little chat now and get in there and see what we've got going on today. Okay, here we are inside the job, and let's see what we have to do today. I imagine at some point we're going to have to hit these walls and stuff. I'm here before the customer, but I believe the text message, I'll check it again in a minute. We got to sort these ceilings out, which have been artexed. They were like this. Looks quite a heavy, what's called a broken leather pattern. You see that it is pretty heavy, but the guys, I've got them doing the dog work before me, and they're giving it a good old scrape to take those high points off and make it much easier for us to just get it with multi-finish. There's different ways you can do that. Some people like to put bonding in with the first coat to kind of bulk it out a little bit, because that first initial coat is going to be quite heavier than going on obviously something that's flat like boardwork or something like that. So yeah, by putting a certain ratio of the undercoat stuff like thistle bonding, possibly hardwall, although hardwall is probably a little bit soft for my liking. Bonding will, you know, help with the setting times, or it goes off a little bit faster, and, you know, it tends to be a bit harder when it sets. So you can put that in the first coat and then just use just normal multi-finish or board finish or whatever finish you're using to put the second coat on. What I tend to do is just use complete finish, to be honest with you, multi-finish, and I'll knock that first coat up quite stiff and get that on, and then leave that for a little bit longer than you normally would before you put the second coat on, so it's got time to properly firm up and start holding itself and not sag so much under its own weight. But we'll get into that anyway. So yeah, we got this area here. We're going to need to get some stop beads around this stairwell angled bit of ceiling. We got up here, we got all the ceilings to do at some point. I'm just getting in here, helping them out and just trying to keep in front of them. So this bedroom needs doing. Coving, of course, needs keeping clean, etc, etc. This is going to be a little bit tricky, Raz. Need to make up the level here because that's quite a bit shy. But I've seen the loft hatch they've got going in. It's quite a big plastic thing and it lips round quite a lot. So yeah, we just need to get that tidied up. So let's get our tools in and get started. Just a couple little things I've noticed just before we do get our tools in and get started. Up here, look, they was kind of excessively scraping back. They didn't need to get it back that far. It's all had a coat of PVA already. It's one thing I did. Has it? Yeah. I did advise them get quite a thin coat of PVA over everything well prior to when I got in, at least the night before, so that PVA's got a chance to get into that dusty artex, because it never really sets. It only kind of like dries out, and when you paint it, the paint becomes part of the artex, and what makes it that tends to be what makes it either hard to get off or not very hard because they painted it in the wrong way, blah 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 blah. So yeah, in the interest of stabilizing that dusty artex, I've got them to PVA it with a weak solution, so that weak solution gets up into that artex and has time to dry and cure all the way through its depth as far as that PVA gets in there, so that when we come in the next day, it's nice and stable. Because there is a chance of, if you try to PVA this up or SBR it, maybe not so much SBR is quite thin anyway, but if you try to PVA it just before you plaster it, there's a chance that that PVA is going to start drying on the surface, but underneath that skin that's just been created, in the depth of the dusty stuff, the PVA is still wet, and there is a chance, because you're trying to get on it too quick, and the PVA has been put on too thick, that skin is going to pull away from that sludgy dust that hasn't properly cured yet. So it's a good idea to stabilize a good day before you get in, if you do have the chance to do it. You're pushing your luck a little bit. It's normally all right, but you're pushing your luck, PVA in something like this and then getting straight on it straight away. Our issue is to look out for when they artex, they run a edging brush around the edge of the coving to create this little border here. So what happens is, look, if you're not careful, you'll end up breaking that off and creating more damage than good on the actual profile of the coving here. So yeah, it is a bit of a tricky one. I tend to just keep brushing these in, and maybe towards the end you can sand them. But yeah, you do have to be careful, because so look, you can see it here, there's a residue of artex over this coving here. This is quite a tricky little bit, look. Getting around these and everything, that all takes time. Welcome to my office. Situation. It's nice to have like some sort of form of water, but something going on. There's no outside tap, and the only water access is this here. Now I tend to fill up this large griller tub, but I can't get it underneath this tap, so I've had to angle it up a little bit. So we get that pulled out. little bit, and then slowly. There we go. Nice little feature, isn't it? Best we keep our eye on that. Those ceilings have already been primed up with a weak solution of PVA. We can now redo it and get another coat over it with some thicker stuff. Remember, PVA is quite thick and gloopy anyway when it comes out the tub, so you do need to water it down a little bit, okay? And I tend to get it roundabout, sort of like single cream consistency. So a quick review of these hop-ups made by our Werner, and these are the ones with the adjustable legs. These two buttons up here, you push them in and that's what folds the leg out, and then there's a button under here, this one, and that's what opens the pins and allows you to select what height you want. So on these stairs you can see we haven't bothered opening those legs out at all, it's sitting there flat, and we've got a crate on top. Just squeeze that past it, not as slim as I used to be. Crate on top so we can get to that little bit just up there. Another alternative would just be to put a step ladder or something and lean it up against this wall. There we go, let's have a look at this. This is something that catches my eye quite often. Although you'd have to be quite tall and you only get a brief glimpse. I'm not sure if it's going to come out on video very well, but look, as we come down the stairs, we're able at one point to get this line here. So I'm looking through the camera to make sure I'm pointing. And this line here, these ideally need to be perfectly parallel. Now I can see, because I'm lining it up and I can see the two lines are touching here, but down on this bottom one, this one down here is kicking down. So this one of them's out. It looks like it might be that one down there. I don't know yet. But one's kind of like going this way and the other's going this way. So there's a bit of a twist in this strip here. And we're a bit limited what we can do to sort that out, because we can only put a stop bead, and I'll show you what a stop bead is in a minute, on this section, because we're not doing this wall, so we can't put a stop bead on here and pull this down to suit the bottom. I might have to manipulate the bottom one because we are going round the corner a bit, so I might be able to pull this one out a little bit, or pull this one, which way was it going, I can't remember now. Might be able to pull this bit down. Let's have a look from this angle, see if I can get it to come out on video a bit better. Okay, look, so yeah, we can see. Right. Okay, I'm just lining it up there. Okay, it is kicking out a little bit. You see the twist in it? I can. The other problem I've noticed on this little bit, for some reason, they really curled that round. I'm wondering if that... There's a bead on there already. There's a stop bead coming down to that. So this has been re-skimmed at some point because they wouldn't have those beads with it. But look, that's really curling out quite a lot. Look, it's quite so... There's a bit on that side, it's not quite so bad. See the light coming through? Yeah, it's quite a big curve. So we need to get a stop bead on here, which is going to pull that down a little bit further as well. So this is going to be an area that's going to need some filling. Okay, now let's concentrate on this corner here for a second. Now this is a stop bead. Plaster stops, that's why it's called a stop bead. It's got this little bit which just curls around here, just if you don't know. That's a bit I've already trimmed. Look, that's the machine edge. Okay, and we can't put it up on this side coming down, so we can't manipulate this angle this way. So this is the one that's unmovable, if you like. Now, I've kind of measured it, but I've trimmed it a little bit long because I like to be able to get in there and see what I'm doing. So we're a few mil long. If I just come to this point here, and I'm still going to cut it a little bit long because I want it to fit perfectly. Look, there we go, it's in. Right, we have to go this way. I know, look, it's still a little bit long. I'll just trim that down. A little bit of trial and error. There we go, that is snug as a bug. Now we have to come to this line, which fortunately is fairly straight. I'm going to give that a bit of a scrape to get that even straight. See the artex has bled over onto it. In that corner there. There's all sorts of ways you can put beads up. I'm going to see if I can get away with getting staples in here. Now remember, like, we need to be flush here with this surface. And as I just showed you earlier on the video, I've got a massive great big curl in it here, and putting this bead on is increasing it by another 3 mil or so. Right, let's see if we can get this to fix up with our stapler. If not, we're going to have to stick it or nail it or screw it. Well, I do like to get a hard fix in something like this if I can. Yeah, that's going in nice. So we're just going to get this up there and make sure it's all flush with this edge. Yeah, we're looking pretty good. I'm going to get quite a few in there. So this one's up, then we're going to cast dry and we'll get one down here. And this one, because we're going to be plastering both sides, we're going round the corner there. That's where we get the chance to manipulate the bead to suit this one. We can't move this one at all. It has to be that way. So now we've got kind of like a black line across here. We might be able to, let me see if I can see with the camera. Hold on, let me zoom in a bit. So look, I'm going to try and line up the bottom. Can't point this side over here. This is the low point here, so I'm going to line this up with there, then I'm going to cast my eye across and look, and this is the side that's kicking down. So let's line that up there. So we're just touching there, so we can't see this corner anymore, but look, we can see this one down here. So this is the one over here that's going to need pulling out so that these two lines are parallel. I've come down this direction because this is the way we can manipulate it on this bottom one, but I've just pinned it temporarily for the moment, just for free, and I've put it on the line that it already exists. Okay, so hopefully by having those two beads on there on the camera, it should show up how out it is. So there we go. Let's zoom in again. Line up there with that line. See how that's kicking off? Right, this is the one we need to manipulate. We need to come the other direction. Okay, back at the top. Have another look. Now it's better, but it's not perfect. But we're creating another problem for ourselves. I think I'm going to have to switch this bead round the other way, because what's happening is this still needs to come down further. And you can see here, look, we're already making ourselves really deep on here, which means we'll have to make it up across this whole ceiling. So what I'm going to do is switch the bead to this side now and come out this way and put the discrepancy here. But this is the thing. I don't want to be curling this line round either. I want to keep that as straight as possible. So that one is curling round this way a little bit. That one doesn't look too bad as it is. Right. Okay, so we switched the angle bead to this line here rather than this one. And we can see, look, now we've got the discrepancy here. Okay, so this is the bit that's going to need filling out rather than it being on here and we're filling out this little bit. So if we just come up the top It would be easier if we was able to manipulate both beads to suit, so we can do, you know, half manipulate this one, half manipulate this one, but we've got to do it all on that bottom one. Excuse me for sniffling, still got the sniffles. So we have a look now, try and line those two edges up. Look at that, they're pretty parallel now. So we've had to move that discrepancy. There's a discrepancy there. We need to move it to somewhere where it's less noticeable, and it's going to be along here. Okay, so we just got this one in here to meet, and it's looking pretty good. This is going to be our issue now, keeping this one straight, but I'm quite confident we can do it. But look, let's come back as we can cast our eye again from down the bottom looking up. These two lines are looking, it's hard to show you. Oh, where am I? Trying to look through the screen. Oh, there we go. It's not working so well down here, is it? There we go, on that focus. So they're looking pretty good to me. And like I said, we had to change it this way because the way it was coming down, otherwise remember it was coming down really low, which meant this would have to pull down really low, and then we would have had a big bulge here trying to lose that discrepancy in this flat area. So I think the best place is up there. I'm kind of thinking it might be bad, so bad that we'll have to get a derby or a rule on it. What have we got in here? We have got some hardwall. Okay, I think I might be going into one a little bit here, but if I get this rule out, it's a straight edge, feather edge, and if I hold it on, because that's come out the way it has, if I hold it on this bead, it's touching there, now we've got quite a bit of depth to make up if we want to get that to be straight. We can't really, all I noticed that if I try to plaster that, it's going to curl right round, okay, like this, all the way. So on this side, it's quite bad. And it remains quite bad. You can see my fingers behind. That's quite a bit of depth to make up. That's a bit more than I'd like for multi-finish. I think, hold on a second, I'm very tight. Sorry about the camera angles. Just bear with me for 1 second. So on this side, you know, that will take a bit of finish. You could get that finished. This is the side that matches up a lot better. Even though it still curls round at the top. Yeah. That would just annoy me, unless, you know, I continued that curve round, but I don't like it. We're going to have to get some hardwall on this. Yeah, it's getting quite heavy. Getting quite heavy up there. So yeah, we're going to use the undercoat hardwall because it's a lot lighter in weight. Okay, so we've got a lot of work to be getting on with here in the entirety of the job, because we are to do all the ceilings in here eventually anyway. The customer did specify that getting that bedroom and that top landing ceiling done was priority so that they can move on up there. So I think what I'm probably going to do now, I'll set that up. I know how it needs to be. I might tackle that at the end of the day because it's a bit of an easier thing rather than get that, mess around with it, and then, you know, be troweling up at the end of the day and I need to get some setting on. So I'm gonna tackle the setting upstairs, get that out of the way, and then with the end of the day, I'm gonna float that out. I think, who knows, it might change, but that's kind of like the gist I'm getting what's gonna happen here today. Quite chubby, as usual. Get over this texture. So this ceiling is on, and if you are regular to this channel, I'm always trying to use the light to show the way the plaster is behaving or the discrepancies. It looks really bad, so we've just thrown this on. We haven't flattened it in, and the way the light's catching it's really showing up all the different directions I've had to move with the trowel. If I come this way, look, it doesn't look anywhere near as bad, you know. So I always try to show it. It's very difficult on video to show exactly what's going on, whereas plastering is concerned. So you can see, because the ceiling, they always are all over the place. We've got the extra depth because of the texture on there. So we've kind of got it on and filled it out necessary, trying to eliminate as many lines as we can, but we're going to get back across it with the 20x5 carbon steel trowel by Marshall Town, which is predominantly straight. It's only the very end that kicks up, okay? But mainly from back here to here, this blade is pretty straight, okay? And this is why I love using it for straightening out undulated walls and ceilings really quite early on in its life, and not waiting until in the later stages where you try to have to really put some pressure behind it and plane it off. Out here we're looking even worse because we had to make up this corner by freehand, and we've got little bits and pieces like this where the guy that's coved it has done little bits of varying distances. I've got to get in there, yeah, look at that one. I've got to get in there. I have got a tool for that. I've got my little tools over here, a selection, like I'm a dentist, for all the different possibilities I may find myself in. And because we just got that one there, let's have a look. See if we can't get in there with that little tool and just get that bit in. Yeah, look at that, how satisfying is that? And there we go. Okay, so let's turn back round and flatten it in straight away. Okay, so coming back to that position, we have gone over it once with the big trowel and flattened it in a lot better. So there's not much point in taking any more action to it for the moment because it's still very wet, and you can see it's sagging under its own weight because of the depth. So what we tend to do is just let this pick up, as I'm sure I mentioned earlier. We're looking quite a bit better out there, and we're not smooth by any sense of the word, but we are getting flat. I did have just over a hardwall left over, and it was going quite stiff. So what I've done with that, I've come to this bit that I showed you earlier, and I've started taking out the worst bits, the depths. So like, remember it's curling around here and stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do another little thing to it. Hold on a second. Yeah, it was right there. I thought I might have to search for this because I hadn't used it for a while when it was in that bucket. So, just with the scratcher, we're going to do what it's called, and just scratch this up. And that's going to give it a bit of key. Now, like I say, we have got that hardwall in there, and that is probably what I am going to put over it to try and reduce the weight. But it's not that sticky. So on the deeper areas, I don't mind getting a bit of this multi-finish on there. As what's known as a prick-up sort of thing, prick-up coat. I'm just dubbing it out. So it's got a nice bit of grab. Like that. So we have given it a few moments in here, and if we give it the old touch test, look, it's not sticking to our finger, it's quite firm. And I think it's probably in a good condition to start putting another coat over it without worrying about all this bleed through and this pattern and everything coming through into the next coat. Now, you may notice I've been as tidy as I can be around all the coving and everything. I'm not too worried about cleaning it off at this point. If you try to get a brush in there or something, then you're going to end up starting to dig into the actual line of the plaster. And that's the one that I'm worried about, this nice straight line. I'm not worried about this at the moment. Although if you do play guitar and you've got a half decent thumbnail, you can hold your finger with your thumb just picking over a little bit. So you're using your thumbnail there as a bit of a gauge, and you should be able to make quite a nice job of it. But like I say, I don't mind leaving that a little bit till it firms up a bit. Obviously not go off rock hard, but when it firms up, and it'd be an ideal time to get that off either with your finger or your thumb, or you can use some sort of a pointy trowel or something like that, and try not to damage this this profile of the coving, which is easily done, especially when it's got a layer of artex over it from when you put your brush across it. Okay, so we just mixed up to put the second coat over everything, and you can see it's considerably smaller amount, less than we knocked up to put it on, because if you remember, it's obviously very thick and a lot of the volume of the plaster was taken up in the depth, so we don't need nearly as much to get the second coat on, because it's only going to be quite a tight coat in comparison to the first coat. And we've also knocked it up a little bit wetter. Right, let's get it on there. Okay, so the second coat is on, and coming back to where the light's coming through, we can see how it's gone on, and it's gone on a lot neater than it did when we first put the first coat on. Just ignore that bit there, that didn't happen. I'm going to get back over across it with the 20x5 carbon steel trowel, and we're going to make it even flatter. Back again, we are in the same position, and it's had its first wet trowel with the brush and 20x5 carbon steel trowel, and I must say we're looking a lot flatter than we was a few moments ago. Same as out here, looking a lot better and in control. Okay, so coming down the stairs, checking on this, it's setting quite nice. It's not totally set though. But it's, yeah, it's all right. It's not bad. Yeah, we'll do well to let this go off proper, and then we can still sort of like put marks on it. We'll do well to let this go off proper hard, because this is our grab. Yeah, this is what's going to take the thicker coat, although it is quite thick in places. I think, you know, we could have possibly got away with just hitting it with hardwall, but hardwall's not the most ideal thing to put up here. I mean, I think we would have done it, but I'm much happier that this has happened to take the weight out of it, because now we're breaking it up into two smaller coats. So one big thick coat over here, you know, it might have a tendency as it's picking up to fall out a little bit. You start pushing your luck, so you're better off breaking it up into separate layers, because obviously this one can go off. It starts doing its job. It's stuck nicely. It's taken a lot of the weight out of it, and it's allowing the grab for the new coat to go over the top. Okay, so this is the condition we are in now, and it's ready to take. We'll stop using the 20x5 carbon steel, and we're going to go to this Rafina Superflex Flexi Trowel stainless steel, and we're going to close the surface in because all the ripples and the flattening out has already been done, and now we need to concentrate on making things smooth. Now we've already finished making things flat. Okay, so that's what we are looking like with one pass with the stainless steel Rafina Flexi Trowel. We will leave this for a little bit longer, not long, 5-10 minutes, and then I will go over it again, and then these will be done. There we go. It's the second visit with the Rafina Flex 2. Okay, we start turning our attention to this down here. So here's the pattern we got going on down here, and that one's been scraped, and this living room has not been scraped. So look, these fans have been put around where the old light would have been. So these downlights are new. As you can see, it's quite a heavy artex. Now, I thought I felt a presence when I turned up to this job. A video further back, the best, it's just 2 or 3 videos down on the playlist. It's called, I'm just trying to remember my own videos. It's called the best plastering video ever. I've done a few called that, but it's the one, it's 2 or 3 videos down, where I did the arches in the kitchen. Yeah, when I came in now, I thought I felt a certain presence, and I know the guy that did all this, and I haven't seen him for like 20 years, although I am still in contact with him. I haven't got time to tell you about it at the moment, but it's very coincidental, and I thought, because I used to work with him, I recognised this pattern. We'll crack on with the job, because I don't want to be telling you on the customer's time. I want to get home, do the videoing, do the editing, sorry, and then I'm going to tell you a little story. Okay, so I just carried this up the stairs. It's some stuff, and it's called Thistle Hardwall, and it is a backing coat. Very much like the bonding, the Thistle bonding, but it's just got slightly different properties. This stuff is designed for high suction backgrounds. God, I'm still out of breath, sorry. High suction backgrounds, and it takes a lot longer to go off, and is designed to be ruled and played around with. Whereas bonding, the Thistle bonding, which tends to be in the purple bags, is for more renovation stuff, which is really sticky and quite hard and brittle, and it's for more, you know, like if you've got chases where the electrician has drilled out walls and patches and stuff like that. That's what it's designed for. But we have hardwall, so this is what we are going to use. Okay, so here we go. I've knocked it up initially here a little bit on the wet side because it's not the stickiest stuff in the world, and because of where I want to put it and the surface it's going onto, I'm going to jazz this up with a good few handfuls of multi-finish to give it a bit more stickiness. Right, you're up there, I'm down here, let's make this happen. So, let's whistle whilst we ride. So it turns out, and I've just had it confirmed, that when I came into this property, like I say, I thought I recognised that pattern. It looked very similar to my old master, one of my old masters. If you're a regular to this channel, you will know that Jasper, the Emperor, is initially my old master. I had a second one, and I've spoken about him before on this channel. And his name's Skippy, and he's been gone from this country for 20 odd years. Anyway, he's not on Facebook or anything, I hardly really talk to him, but since doing YouTube and stuff, he has been in contact with me, saying he's enjoying the videos and stuff, so you know, it was nice to talk to him again. And like I say, it was only 4 or 5 years older than me, but I was his Padawan, and we had a lot of adventures together plastering, and I spent quite a bit of time with him. And I knew he did move around a lot, so in all fairness, but I knew he did live here around this area at one point. And it turns out, so I've just messaged him in Australia, this is actually his old house. He got it on a council exchange, and apparently the place was in a bit of a state. So we're talking like 30 years ago, I guess. And yeah, replastered the place and artex the ceilings, because back then artex was still a thing. I mean, it amazes me how much artex there is in the world. So yeah, Skippy is his name, and ironically or coincidentally, whichever way you want to look at it, he moved to Australia and now lives in Perth. So my old master didn't take the time to do this in his own house, straightening up his stairwell. Oh, and we did do another video in this property, and it was the one just a little bit down. I think it was called The Best Plastering Video Ever. Well, I've done a few called that. I think I might have said that already. And where I sorted out these nasty arches. This is just a couple of videos down the page. And I quizzed him about that, and he is saying he didn't do that. He's not laying any claim to that at all. But he did do the artexing and plaster the walls completely. So he's the one that put this stop bead up here like that, and he's the one that curled that round and artexed it in. Okay, so on here, we're taking it a bit easy. It's not the best, easiest thing to do, floating a ceiling, anything above your head at this angle. We'll get a nice coat of that, and then we are gonna put a bit of hard stuff sticking through. I'll bed onto the bead there a little bit. Okay, right, let's get a rule and have a look at this. I'm almost there, which is well handy. I didn't want to be out too far, because rolling like this, you're going to be likely to drop the load. Right?
Had a good day?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Good, good, good.
That's good.
You filming or just talking to yourself?
I'm talking to myself.
That's okay.
No, I am filming. Apparently it's alright to talk to yourself, it's just as long as you don't get an answer, that's the only thing. But yeah, I'm recording this because it's a little bit more unique. So yeah, what I wanted to do was get it pretty close. I didn't want to put it, overload loads of it and then have to rule off loads of it. So now I can see exactly where I'm missing. Some bits were touching, some bits are missing. So now we can fill those missing bits. Obviously it helps if you've got a rule that's long enough to get both beads. I'm still missing a little bit there. Might be able to fill that with the rule. Place that back in and lay that back on there. I'm giving it this little wiggle like that, it reduces the drag. So we're coming at it at a zigzag angle.
Set up for the video.
Yeah, it's up there, yeah. I can edit it all later on the laptop. Right, let's come at this direction. Oh, that's there. We need to fill. So we can close the rule back up, look. It's only got a little bit on there. And kind of use your rule as a trowel and load it back on. There's a little bit up here that's missing. We'll close the rule up, lay it on, and then take it off. Right, I think we're looking pretty good. Amazing. Look how we're fixed. Look at that. Parallel as. Obviously we're still very wet at the moment, but I'm really happy that it's in a good shape. Just take this bit off of here so we can see. Shouldn't use my hands, I know. I just wanted to clean that bead off before. To footage. There we go. Nice and straight up this line. Nice and straight up that line. I mean, you guys on YouTube, I'm sure you don't find this quite as amusing as I do, but yeah, just messaged me with a laughing emoji and said, oh yeah, I did plaster it all and I broken levered the ceilings, and I think I did fans around the ceiling roses, lol, ha ha ha, as in this was what was cool. But then he's gone well heavy in here, look. Look at that. That is some chunky old leather. It's failing a little bit on there, look. Yeah, there you go, Skippy. It's your old bathroom, mate. So for today, we are done in here. Oh, look, there's something in there, look. I've forgotten to cut this one out. And tell you what, that's because I stood there, I got that one, that was right above my head and I've not seen it because it's right above my head. Tomorrow, the guy here, the customer, has bullied me into coming in tomorrow to get him ahead a little bit further because they just want to crack on with it. So in here, the front bedroom, we are going to plaster this wall. We're going to plaster the ceiling, and I've just been instructed they want this wall over here plastered as well. So fun times for tomorrow, hey? They're going to get it cleared out in here tonight. I'm going to go and do some video editing tonight. I've got about 2 or 3 episodes on my phone and on my computer. I need to get through them. So yeah, plenty of videos on the way. They're in the pipeline. Okay, right, let's get home. Let's get out of here. Enjoy what's left of this lovely weather today, Friday afternoon. I dare say I will be popping down the corner shop and get a nice bottle of Sauvignon Blanc, New Zealand, from the Marlborough region. That's some nice stuff. Right, take it easy. So the customer thinks he's blocked me in and make me work some more. But because I live just round the corner, I'm walking home today. I've just left my car at the job and I'll walk there in the morning. So yeah, it's a nice day for it now. Nice bit of exercise, fresh air. Good morning guys, it's Saturday morning, it's just before 7 AM and I just walked down the road with a cup of coffee to work today as a plasterer, if you don't know. Okay, we are inside the job and I'm able to get here very early because the customer doesn't live here yet and I have the key, so I managed to get in nice and early and we can finish early today on a Saturday. Who wants to be working late on a Saturday? I do have a social event to do later this evening. Yesterday evening I've got loads of footage that I need to edit. I was up quite late, it turned out to be quite a long video. So I was up late, I was editing pretty much all the evening. Had some Chinese, a bottle of wine, and we're up and back at it today, making more videos and plastering stuff. So this is the kitchen that we did previously. It's all drying out. There was a video, I can't remember what the entitlement of the video was that I called it. But if you look at that, that was in the thumbnail. So have a look down the playlist. It's that one. All the best plasters do this. The best plastering video ever. I don't know. So yeah, this was quite a nasty kitchen to do. It was all over the place. We had to float out areas. We had to sort out these arches that had already been pre-formed, but they've been done by hand, and they didn't look very good. So we had to tidy all them up. And today, let me just show you the artex. What was good back in the day. That's where the old light came through. Look, and he's used a comb to fan around the old ceiling roses. But yeah, this is. I recognise this artex, this broken leather, this style of it, and it is Skippy's that you've done about 30 years ago, give or take a year or two. Who knows? So yesterday we floated out this because this area here was twisted. So have a look at that video. I think that's going up. I've got that scheduled to go up later today, and that's called. I believe it's called plastering Buddhism or something like that, so I ended up going on about Buddhism. Is it? I can't remember. Anyway. We did this ceiling yesterday and it started to dry out. And today our quota is, I want to see if I can pick this up as well, but I got my tools in here yesterday, they've got their tools out. We're taking out this ceiling that they've already pre-scraped. I'm going to drop these down because it's screws. Yeah, I'm going to drop these down away from the ceiling because it's very difficult to get around and make a nice neat edge around those. So I'm going to drop them down, hopefully leave the screws in, just drop them down slightly so I can get behind this and they can screw back up. We've got this wall over here that's going to require plastering, and this one here which has had an extensive amount of filling, so they want this one plastered as well. So yeah, all across here, this wall, ceiling, and then this wall, leaving this wall and this wall untouched. So shall we just crack on and start doing it? Like I say, this has already had a light coat of PVA, but we are going to give it another one. I don't think the PVA gets actually. Let's have a little test. I told nah, that's not PVA. See, I'll just lick my finger and see how thirsty that is. It's going to be very high suction on this wall, so we need to get PVA on that. So everybody, PVA, SBR, or the grits, it's always an area of contention with plasterers. Which ones do you prefer? I tend to go for PVA more often than not. I find it the easiest one to use. It's quite versatile. SBR will do pretty much the same thing, but it's much more aggressive version of PVA, if you like. So it's whatever one you like to use, but yeah, for me, PVA in this sort of situation is perfectly fine. You don't need anything more aggressive than that. Okay, so one thing that's got a bit of a problem that's caught my eye immediately in here. So let's have a look at this wall. it's like a plain old wall, doesn't it? But there is a little bit of a trap on here. So the skirting board, the architraves, and we got some coving up here. Now, it makes things a little bit more tricky because this becomes a live edge. Normally this wouldn't be on there, so you'd be able to plaster straight to the door frame, then the architrave goes on afterwards. Same as down the bottom, you just trim it back and the skirting goes on afterwards. And quite often you'd plaster up and then the coving would go on afterwards, but we're doing it the reverse way, we're re-skimming this area. But look, it's very, very undulated. Look at this. You know, how are we supposed to get a nice edge on that when that's already as bad as that is? Same as the ceiling, when they brush the artex, this little line, this little border coming out on camera. They get a little inch brush and that wipes a little bit of artex all across the face of the coving here. And it's just, yeah, it's got filler on it. Look, where mate, you stopped in there, for some reason it's been filled. Look at that nasty little bit up there. These are the things that really do make a difference. The edges, you know, you can kind of get away with undulations and maybe a bit of something in the middle, but when it comes to the edges, and if they're not crisp and clean, that's what really catches your eye, especially when the paint goes on there. And on this side, look, it's a little bit worse. It looks like it has been re-skimmed. What is going on there? It looks like the skim coat has come off. Look, that's another layer. This is, I think, yeah, look, so, look, here we go. This is the old original floating, which is kind of like a sand and cement. Is it Seraphite or something? Then, this is the plaster, the original finish coat here, look, and then it's been re-skimmed. But what it looks like to me, since that re-skim up there is still left, what it looks like to me, that's probably been papered, and they steam that off, and the steam has taken my old master's skin coat off of that as well. Do you know what? Being a bit of a Columbo, he would have PVA'd that wall to go over that old plaster. So it looks like, yeah, that's been re-skimmed and the skim's come off. So I'm going to suggest or think that wall might have been papered, and he's PVA'd it, and it's mixed with the old wallpaper paste, which generally isn't too much of an issue. So he would have PVA'd, and that PVA would have mixed with the wallpaper paste, and he skimmed over it, and then probably painted it. It looks like through the years, because obviously we don't know what's been going on over here, that must have been papered again, and I'm thinking somebody's taken a steamer to that, and that steamer has gone through the paper and then gone through the overskim and then got into that PVA, which is on the original plaster, mixed with the wallpaper paste, re-emulsified it, and when they steamed it, they popped the plaster off as well. I mean, we can see it's had all sorts on it. So, I'm surprised, that must be the original plaster. It's a paint, there's a grey paint on it, there's a white paint on it. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, that looks like Skippy's plastering has failed. So on this wall here, look, more evidence that a re-skim has failed. That's plaster on top of the old plaster. That's the only thing I can think of happened. Somebody steamed that and actually popped popped the new re-skim off. Say the new re-skim, the re-skim that was done a long time ago. But of course, it's all just conjecture. My PVA in my PVA tub that contains my roller with PVA ready mixed, ready to rock and roll, mixed with a little bit of water to be kind of like a single cream sort of consistency. A little screw in there just so you can hang it on the side. Just give that a few minutes and let that PVA run out from inside the roller, otherwise we're going to be dripping it everywhere, so just let that drain off. that bit looks better already. Look at this, somebody's run their finger through there and just rounded that right off. Okay, so this wall here, it's going to be quite high suction. If you are going to PVA it, or you need to get quite a thin coat in there. So, well, we don't want a thick coat of PVA on here. You don't want it too thick, because otherwise what's going to happen is it's going to create a skin and it's not going to get a proper adhesion. So we need to thin it down a little bit so it actually soaks in and becomes part of the wall, not just sitting on the surface, because the bone dry surface is going to rip all the moisture out of the PVA, and you're going to get a skin on the top, and you're going to have sticking problems. SBR is quite thin in its neat state already and is really efficient at killing suction, so that would be ideal for this, but PVA will do the job today. Nice big fluffy roller, get good coverage of it. You start at the bottom and the other way, you start pushing on and it will all start dripping out. So you come at the bottom, let's see, press a little wave look on top of the roller. And then the floor, half of it is going. If you do it the other direction, start at the top and come down, you're actually chasing. All dripping down, okay? Not that it makes that much difference, but if you're trying to be clean the stuff, you're probably better off. You know, all these little simple things do help, you know? Start at the bottom, come up, rather than starting at the top and coming down. And most of it I was saying, actually, yeah, start at the top and work my way down. Okay, so we're giving everything a PVA in here. This is emulsioned. It's put in quite quick. SBR, they tell me, dries a lot quicker than PVA, but I don't mind using PVA because I keep an eye on it and it gives me an indication. I can tell by how fast the PVA pulls into that surface whether I've killed the suction enough or not. And sometimes it's good to have a little bit of suction, whereas SBR kills loads of suction. So if you've got a small area to do and there's a high sort of suction, for me, what I like to do is get that suction down to a level where I don't need to put any additives in it, and it's going to speed up the set of the plaster a little bit so you can get out there a little bit earlier. Put SBR all over it, it's going to kill all the suction, and then you're going to have to be waiting that full 3 hours for that plaster to set, unless you put some sort of additive in there to accelerate the plaster. So in here we are PVAing this wall, as I aforementioned, because it has very high suction. Now I started here because I wanted to get a coat on this, then I wanted to get across the ceiling, then I wanted to get on that wall, and by that time I can come back and check this wall out and see, yeah, that's pulled in a little bit, and now it's ready for a second coat. So this time you can see that the PVA is hanging around a little bit more, so I'm quite happy that it is quite slimy. I'm telling you, there's wallpaper paste on there. Yeah, I'm quite happy that's going to pull in. On the ceiling here, it's a bit of a different case. So although they've already PVA'd it once, because I advised them to do it before I got in here, so the PVA had time to properly cure. This is hanging around. The reason we're PVAing this is because it's over a painted surface, so there isn't much suction there at all. So the idea of putting PVA over a painted surface is to actually physically glue the plaster to that surface. The same as here. This is pulling in quite nicely as well, look, listen. That's tacky. That's when they tell you to go over it, okay, when it's tacky. But with PVA, and I've seen videos with people with SBR letting the SBR dry. You can let the PVA dry, it's touch dry, you can still go over it. And like I say, with PVA, it re-emulsifies with moisture, so when you get it wet again, it kind of tacks back up anyway. SBR doesn't do that, it has waterproof properties in it. Okay, there's plenty of other things for me to do whilst that PVA is pulling in a little bit, and one of them is sorting this out a little bit. Now yesterday I floated this out because down these stairs, this line here was twisted when you compared it to this line, and when you come down the stairs you get a chance to see it. So that's why I've taken the time to manipulate this one down here, because I couldn't manipulate this one because we're not plastering up onto this wall, but we're going down and around the corner, so I could mess around with that one. So what I did, I mixed, because we had it here, hardwall with a few handfuls of multi-finish in it, and I did it right at the end of the day. So what I should have done, because I was able to have a rule, a straight edge, and I was able to hit the rule on this corner here, on this stop bead, and on that corner, and draw the rule straight across. So I know it's really quite flat. But what I should have done was get a devil float, and devil floated out and put some key in there and stuff, and really buffed it up. But I did it quite late in the day, and because we used hardwall goes off at quite a slow rate, so I wasn't hanging around all day, all evening, just to wait for that so I could devil it up, when I know I've got other options I can do today to remedy what we didn't do yesterday. And one of them is, what I am going to do is take my trowel here, which is a strong one, a carbon steel, and I'm going to rub my trowel and cut it out. See all these internals here, cut all these internals right back, sharpen it all right up, and then, whoa, there's my trowel down there. And then, once I've done that, I'm going to run a coat of PVA all over it, just to kill the suction down a little bit, because if you try to plaster straight on top of that, again, you've got the same thing. This base coat is going to rip all the moisture out of the top coat, the multi-finish, and it's going to start drying out a little bit too quick. It's pulling the moisture out, and the plaster doesn't get a chance to cure. It needs to sit around. It needs that moisture. It needs to go off at a nice rate, not have the moisture ripped out of it. So this is it. This is the suction levels, and this is where, if you don't understand your suction levels, then this is where you get adhesion problems. As a plasterer, I don't think I know any plasterers that in their infancy in plastering has not got a story about flooding somebody's house. That's the only place I can get water from at the moment. Water butt kind of inside. Don't walk away from them. Just stay with them. Stay with them. Did have one guy, actually, he has featured in a couple of the videos what we've done. He thought I'd fill Friday evening. I'll fill the water butt up ready for Monday. So I packed his tools and stuff like that. Woke up Saturday morning, water butt! So yeah, he suddenly remembered. He'd left it running. So he did go back to the job, and apparently it was all cascading down the stairs and everything, like some sort of picturesque waterfall. Luckily it was like a new build sort of thing, so nobody was living there or anything, and didn't really cause any damage. So yeah, just be careful when you're filling up your water butt. Just keep your eye on it all the time. Yeah, just don't forget about your water butt. Only joking. You was thinking it, wasn't you? You was thinking it. Yeah, I set it up. Look at him walking around, talking to his phone, making videos whilst he's got the water butt running, telling us not to walk away from the water butt, and then it's going to overflow, isn't it? Yeah, the power I have. But with great power comes great responsibility. That PVA up on that ceiling is still hanging around a little bit, I must say, and the SBR goes, well, it's dry, it's 20 minutes SBR. Okay, it's one of those, isn't it? The two end walls are pulled in, but I want to get that ceiling on more. I want to get that on first, really. So I said, well, look, I phoned my mate Fred up. I said, Fred, look, the PVA is not going off on the ceiling, and what am I going to do? And he just said, well, have a cup of tea. I said, right then. Okay, it's tacky. Let's get it on. Here we go then. It's the obligatory knocking up and laying on montage. much left in the bucket, so it's like kind of just over a hookful. Not bad, considering it's very hard to guess when you're going over such things where you've got an undulated ceiling with a texture on it, because so much of the quantity of plaster is taken up in the depth. And remember, I'm always harping on about it. At this point, we're concentrating on getting things flat. We don't need to get them smooth, we need to get them flat. That's our priority. So using that 20x5 carbon steel trowel, which is quite long, I must say. Not too many plasterers use them. I'm going to get straight back on top of that, and with its length I am going to straighten this ceiling out, get it flat whilst it's still in its wet state, very wet, and I can do it with that big trowel. And because I'm doing it whilst the plaster is still really quite wet, it's not too much hard work on the shoulders and on the joints. If I left it a little bit longer and thought, oh, I'm going to get these walls on, blah blah blah, and then I left this to pick up, then that's so much harder to try and get things flat because the plaster's starting to pick up that much, you know. There we are, that's how we're looking after the first flatten of that first coat, using the light from the window to show up what's actually going on. There was still quite a few holes, so I managed to use the rest of that gear, filling out a couple of pieces. So yeah, it's all good, it's all good. Just let this pick up for a bit. Okay, this ceiling is hanging around quite a bit, I must say. We've got some little air bubbles coming through, like little air volcanoes. We need to let this sit still before we can go over it again, even though it's firming up. If I'm quiet, you might be able to hear it. There's a little snack, crackle and pop sounds again. It's little air bubbles coming through where they scrape the artex and stuff, and it's spewing out air. I think what's happening is, as the plaster is starting to set, it creates a tiny little bit of heat from the reaction, and then where there is an air bubble, where you know you push it on as best you can, but where the air is kind of coming out, it's kind of warming up, and that's what's expanding it and making it pop. So there's no point in going over these until the plaster firms up enough to trap the air in. Okay, so in the meantime, what I'm probably going to do is, whilst I'm waiting, I've tried to be as clean as I can on coving, but I'm just going to get my finger and my thumb like this, like, got your nose, yeah? And I'm just going to use my thumb and use my finger there as my gauge. I mean, I've got quite a good thumbnail because I play guitar, and I'll grow that thumbnail a little bit, although it's not that big at the moment. I had to trim it because I broke the nail, which is always annoying. So yeah, we can go around and do that just to tidy up, because we don't want to disturb this line here too much. We want to keep that line. If you run a brush in there, you'll end up curving it and scooping it out. So I'm just going to do that for a minute. So I'm not sure if I've mentioned this already on this video. Obviously with plastering it, you know, it's so diverse, the techniques, there's loads of different ways of doing the same thing really. And different plasterers like to do different things quite often. And one trick when you're going over a textured ceiling such as this is to put some undercoat in the first coat of multi-finish that you put on there. Just judging it really, it's a bit like Indiana Jones with that idol, you know, looking at it, how much should I put in, should I, you know, a good few handfuls, depends how bad the ceiling is, I guess. I tell you, I have done that in the past, I haven't done it for a long time. These days I tend to rely on that large trowel and knocking the first coat of multi up quite thick, which I generally do these days anyway, no matter what I'm doing. But knocking it out quite thick and just leaving it that little bit longer, and in this case, because it is hanging around and stuff, I've given it 2 flattens, okay? I'm still waiting for it to pull in. I like to finish, and when I put my second coat on, I like to finish as tight as I can. I like to get all the flatness stuff, everything done in the first coat. And I think I'm a little bit worried that if I did put bonding or hardwall in the first coat, where I finish, I'll put such a tight second coat on, the laying down coat. I'm a little bit worried that some of that, is it vermiculite? That's, you know, is the porridgey kind of substance in the undercoats that gives it its depth and its lightweight. But it's a bit like, you know, little bits of cork in there, little shredded bits of cork. And and of course they're spongy, so when I'm going really tight, sometimes that those little bits of cork can bleed through and cause a little bit of pimpling in my top coat, and you end up trying to trowel it out and stuff. That is an issue with it, but other guys swear by it and they love to do it. So, but I think if you did do that, then you do need to lay down with a slightly thicker coat. So, you know, it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. It's what you prefer. I prefer just to do them in multi-finish. If they're that bad, then I'll do it the other way around, and I'll throw a few handfuls of multi-finish or something in bonding or hardwall and just rule the ceiling. But then you're getting into the problem of putting quite a bit of weight on the ceiling. There's only specific times you probably would need to do that. And if you are getting to the point where you might need to do something like that, you're probably better off overboarding or something. I mean, the only time you might ever need to throw bonding or any floating stuff to that degree on a ceiling is if it's like over an old ceiling where some like plaster and lava's failed, and you might have some really ornate coving around the edge or something, so you can't really overtack that because you don't want to come down onto the coving for whatever reason. Then maybe some bonding and stuff on the ceiling, but generally if it's that bad, you'll overtack it. Okay, I kind of feel like we're ready to rock and roll with the second coat. I can't hear those air bubbles anymore. I just washed the bucket round with the residue from the first time we knocked up, so we've got a bit of dirty water in there, which is going to help speed up the setting time of this second coat that's going to go on in just a moment. Okay, so where's my spottle? There it is. So we've knocked up a fair bit less than the first, because remember we took up most of the volume of the first bucket of plaster in the depth of that textured finish, and we've knocked up a little bit wetter because remember I like to go quite tight. I find I get best results from flattening out, spending quite a bit of time on these first coats, making sure they're really, really nice and flat, and then finishing off with a nice tight second coat. That is the second coat on, and if I do say so myself, it has gone on very neat indeed. And that is because we took all that time to flatten out the first coat as much as we did. So we got all the hard work out the way when the plaster was wet and easy to move about. Now the process just gets easier and easier. We set ourselves up for a lovely, lovely, tranquil day of plastering. So yeah, that's how it's gone on. I've just laid it on, I've not turned back the flattening. It's still sopping wet. Here we go, giving it our first flatten, and that's how we're looking. There's a couple of stubborn little air bubbles there, but they will press out in time. That's the only place there appears to be anything for some reason. There's just a couple there, but we're looking good. Chippies will probably have a heart attack. Here's an old chisel. I use it for smashing bricks around sometimes, and when you got things like this, I find they are very good indeed. Okay, so this ceiling has had its first wet brush flatten, still remaining with the carbon steel, the 20x5, and this is the condition we are in now with the light coming through the window. Now, if you are an experienced plasterer, you'll probably be thinking to yourself, why wasn't you throwing that wall and that wall on at the same time? I was gonna, but I opted not to knock it up and put it all on and throw it on at the same time with the same plaster, although I could have done that. Judging by how fast they were, I thought I'd get this one down, this ceiling on, get it under control with the first coat, then I'll probably lay it down, and then after the lay down coat, I'll get the first coat on these. We've gone past that time now. The reason being is because my daughter phoned me up and said, oh, you just went around the corner, and your dad? Yeah. He's like, can you give me a lift to work in like an hour? I'm like, Dad's and her daughter's name. So that's why I can't get these walls on at the moment, because I obviously can't leave the job with walls halfway through the early stages of their life. I'll probably just about get away with it. I've got to go in 20 minutes now. She works in Wagamama's up in town. It's like a 10-minute drive. So yeah, I'll probably get another trowel on this just before I go. 10 minutes up the road and then back again, and we'll finish the ceiling off. A little bit, and it's still a little bit rippy from the carbon. It's time to switch to the flexible Stainless steel, Rafina 2. Looking at after the first flatten with that stainless steel, right now I've got to go sort my daughter out. Quick vehicle change. Get these wheels on. Selling lemonade. I won't get there like. You want to do us a pound cup then? Do us a cup for a pound? Yeah, okay, whatever size it is, yeah, cool. It's a pound.
Okay. Can you put that in the money box?
Did you make the lemonade yourself? Or?
Yes. We're going to run out, so I'm going to go to shops to get the ingredients soon.
How did you make it?
I can't tell you the secret.
Oh, okay.
It's fizzy.
I assume it's just got lemons in it, isn't it?
No, it's fizzy.
It's just fizzy.
And tastes like...
it has our special ingredients that no one has.
Okay.
We definitely can show up the sugar.
Yeah, we use sugar.
What's the, is it slugs? Got slugs in here, I think?
Yes. It's lovely slugs.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, we don't put the shells in there.
Yeah, though. Because they'll be crunchy
We
in
only
there.
put the blood in it.
Was that full up then? Have you sold that much?
No, it was like up to here.
How many customers have you had today then?
I'm not.
Wow, look at
That's
that.
50p.
You made more money than me today. Cheers, guys. Alright, mister, you want some lemonade? I think they've done me, to be honest. They put some sugar on the side, but I mean, it's reg roll lemonade and they just put extra sugar in there. All done. Sealing done. All done. Time to pack it up, pack it in. Let me begin. Somebody's fired up the Barbie. Are you guys still here? That was a long video, wasn't it? I was going to break it up into a couple of videos, but it's Sunday today, I'm getting the editing. I got it all off my phone, got it on a laptop, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to just throw it all into one. Yeah, I did go out last night, Saturday, today is Sunday, and I spent most of it editing all that footage and going through it and ripping down. There was like 2 hours of it, so I've ripped it down into whatever this is now. Yeah, last night I did go around a friend's house because they've just moved in, just around the corner actually, and yeah, it was a housewarming party, but it turned out to be a Eurovision party. It was Eurovision. The last video went up the other night. I had it scheduled, and it didn't do that well, and we think it was because it was a sunny day and Eurovision was on. Nothing to do with it being a terrible video or anything. So guys, if you did enjoy this video, please do look at the rest of the playlist and the last video because it's really down on views. I really enjoyed the Eurovision. I think I might make it a bit more of a thing. Yeah, it was quite amusing to be honest with you. I'm going to end this here because I'm not going to ramble on so long. It's been a long video. Do come over to the Facebook group Plaster Master 74 should you wish to engage with us and other plasterers. We're well over almost 600 people on there now, plasterers and stuff. It's a better place to, you know, be able to communicate rather than on the YouTube comments on the video and stuff like that. So come over there and I get to see what you look like and stuff. Plaster Master 74, and of course I'm on Facebook as well. You can follow me there should you wish to. Well, with all that said and done, guys, have a fantastic rest of the weekend. I'm probably going to get this up on Monday night, to be honest with you. So yeah, in fact, if you're watching it then, have a fantastic week. Alright, I'll catch you on the next video. Won't be far away. That's all. Take care.